Check, check. Good afternoon, everyone. We're about ready to start. If we could have all of our female veterans meet over by the office doors. We'd like all the lady veterans to please meet over by the office doors for the entrance procession. Thank you. And if everyone else could come and take a seat here in the wind tunnel. If we all huddle together, we can stay warm. No. Female veterans to the office, non-veterans, everybody else in here. Does anybody have any firewood? We would ask you to, once the bagpipes start, to please stand as we honor our female veterans. In the car. Can you give him a proclamation, please? Please rise. Please remain standing. Thank you for attending the Washington County Fair Military Ceremony. My name is Ed Tracy. As a 12-year Air Force veteran myself, it is my honor to welcome you as we celebrate women in the military. That was Joseph Goodmanson on the bagpipes. We'd like you to please remain standing as we ask Commissioner Adam Snow to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the national anthem performed by Candace Washburn.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please be seated. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Candace. We'd now like to recognize some of our elected officials. County Commissioners Victor Iverson, Gil Almquist, Adam Snow, Hurricane City Mayor Nanette Billings, Washington City Council Member Kurt Ivey. Also in attendance today, City of St. George Chief of Police Kyle Whitehead. Please give him a round of applause. I'd like to now introduce David Cordero. David is the Communications and Marketing Director for the City of St. George, as well as Chairman of the Veterans Coalition of Southern Utah. David has been a published writer for more than 20 years and always tries to do his best to convey his appreciation for our veterans, and he does that very well. After David's remarks, we will then introduce veteran Martha Bigby. David.
Thank you, Ed. At least it's not hot like it was last year, right? Well, we all know that women have proudly served in the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, now Space Force, as nurses, pilots, engineers, soldiers, and other specialties. The United States of America has a rich military history that is full of important contributions from women. But did you know that although women were not recognized as full members of the armed forces until 1948, women have served military roles since the founding of our country? In the Revolutionary War, as colonial militias formed up to join George Washington's Continental Army, many of the soldiers' wives, sisters, and daughters joined them in the fight for independence. One such lady was Margaret Corbin, who disguised herself as a man and traveled with her husband to the front lines of the Battle of Fort Washington and helped him operate a cannon. The battle was a tough one for the Continentals, as the British eventually captured the garrison. However, the efforts of Margaret should never be forgotten. While her husband was hit by enemy fire, Margaret carried on the fighting, despite being shot 3 times herself. Due to her heroic efforts, she was given a military pension, and years after her death was reburied at West Point with full military honors. Other women, such as Deborah Sampson and Lydia Dara, also either disguised themselves as men or supported the war effort by spying on behalf of the Patriots. And nearly 2 decades before Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, she provided nursing care and supplies to soldiers during the Civil War. These actions defined her life and earned her the nickname Angel of the Battlefield. And then when the war ended, Clara found new ways to serve. She opened the Office of Missing Soldiers, helping to reconnect more than 20,000 soldiers with their families. As time went on, the contributions of women in the military continued to grow. During the First World War, about 35,000 women officially served as nurses and support staff. In World War II, 140,000 women served in the U.S. Army and the Women's Army Corps, performing critical jobs such as military intelligence, cryptography, and parachute rigging. Over 1,000 women flew aircraft in the Women Air Force Service Pilots, 100,000 served as Navy Waves, and 20,000 joined the Marine Corps Women's Reserve. I was fortunate to know one of those ladies who served during World War II. in the Marine Corps Reserve, the Women's Reserve. Many of you recall Audrey Wells, a resident of Washington City who helped spearhead the Air Force Junior ROTC in southern Utah and served in many leadership positions in American Legion Post 90. She became well known for serving our community, but before that she served as the first and only drum major of the U.S. Marine Corps Women's Reserve Band. Women like Audrey had a strong spirit, which finally convinced our lawmakers to act. On June 12, 1948, President Harry Truman signed into law the Women's Armed Services Integration Act. With the stroke of his pen, for the first time, women were recognized as full members of the armed forces. This meant they could finally claim the same benefits as their male counterparts, and it also allowed women to make a career in the armed forces. That day, June 12th, became recognized in 2018 as Women Veterans Day. The scope and influence of women in the military continues to grow over the last 3/4 of a century. During the Korean War, women took on new roles, such as military police and engineers. During the Vietnam War, 7,000 American military women served in Southeast Asia. In 1976, the first women were admitted to America's service academies: the U.S. Military Academy in West Point, the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. In 1990, nearly 40,000, you see the numbers are growing here, 40,000 American women, military women deployed for Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And more than 700,000 women have served in the American military during the 21st century, including during Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. Long after they set their uniform aside, women continue to use the skills obtained and experiences gained in military service to contribute to their communities and to become public service leaders. Together, they have created a roadmap to encourage the next generation of young women to aspire to be anything they want to be. The Veterans Coalition of Southern Utah joins organizations throughout the county and throughout the country in recognizing and celebrating the vital role of women in American history. To all female veterans out there, thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Marty Bigby and I have been friends for a long time, and we have a great relationship. She tells me what to do, and I do it. Marty served in the U.S. Air Force during the Vietnam War and has devoted herself to continuing to serve the veterans community through her experiences as the post commander and state commander of the American Legion. Now a member of Post 142, she continues to help us with her service. Everybody, please welcome Marty Bigby.
Greetings to everyone. After saying no to David so many times over the past 7 years, he didn't give me a choice this last Tuesday. So here you go. My name is Martha Ann Edson Young Bigby, or to most people, Marty. I was born and raised in Aberdeen, South Dakota on 12/30/1947. Grew up on a farm, walked a mile to country school for the grades 1 through 8. Fought with my father to allow me to go to school from grades 9 through 12. From there, I went to 1 year of college in Aberdeen. Due to family situation, I was given 3 choices in the matter of placement of my brothers. one of which was to get married. I took a different route and applied to the Air Force. Was accepted, and on August 4th, 1967, began my military career with the Air Force. 6 weeks at Lackland Air Force Base was one of my starting of my first in the military began. On basic training flight, I was with the first group of females, other than nurses, to attend basic training because they didn't know what to do with us. Another first was my run-in with a male Tech Sergeant Shepard, as I would not let him in the barracks for bed check after hours, for which I had to walk to headquarters every evening in the dark and man the red phones when we still had them, file paperwork and memorize all the pictures of the generals on the wall. Another first was, instead of using a mitt, I caught a softball with my right hand and ended up with a cast. Knowing that it would cause me to be set back, I convinced the doctor to give me a cast that would allow me to go do PT and everything that they could throw at me, since I was not going to back down. When it came time for a parade review, I was sent to the hospital because you can't have a defect. But graduated with my flight with a removable cast, as the doctor took pity on me. As soon as I got on the bus, the cast went back on. And was sent to Amarillo, Texas for personnel specialist training. Since there was a mark on my file that I had a slight problem with authority, I had extra duties after classes. That's okay. I learned to clean the showers with a toothbrush, rake rocks from one side of the quad area every Saturday to the other side. Still managed to come out on top. Only failed in beauty classes where we were instructed to wear bright red lipstick and makeup, wear heels that were way too high, skirts that were way too short, girdles and nylons with the seams up the back. From personnel school, I was assigned to Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts. When I arrived, was assigned to the 3rd floor. Was surprised that the rooms were all empty. First day at my duty station, was asked which floor I was on, and everybody laughed. Found out that the entire floor was kicked out of the service due to being, at that time, queer or lesbian. That's my first example of what that meant. I had to be told, sorry. That took a while to get over that little bump. Being a female and new in the duty station, was asked to take over the UIF, unfavorable information files, which meant that recovering of the airmen from the local police lockups, bring them back to the base for processing and punishment. When I wasn't busy with that job, I volunteered to keep punch cards as we were just going into computers. Learned basic COBOL, Fortran computer language. I signed up for college as soon as possible to learn and to keep myself busy and out of trouble. I was going to school 2 nights a week, babysitting for officers' children 4 nights a week, and I was night watchman at the barracks. Again, punishment. Then was asked to help with the human resources area in which the airmen were being transferred and assigned to new duty stations. One area that I campaigned for was the relocation of family members both on base and off base. Of course, this was not heard of in the military, and it was not their concern. So started writing procedures or DevOps concerning the housing, pay, medical care, and family members by reading and asking questions that every no provided there was a way to solve and save a family from separation and helping the airman's family while they are on TDY. After the airman came back from his duty to Guam, he wanted his job back. Yeah, he didn't do anything. So I was asked to work in assignments. No women had done this, and I was told that I couldn't handle it. Sorry, showed them otherwise. After a while, I felt the need to apply for a transfer, so applied for everything I could get, ending up stationed in Hawaii with the Air Force Secret Service. My duty station was at Wheeler Air Force, which is now an Army base in Schofield. I lived at Hickam, again, going to school 2 nights a week and working at Camp Smith, which is a Marine Corps detachment, 3 nights a week at some babysitting and making wedding dresses for anyone that wanted to get out of the military. It only ended up 36. Met my husband David and married on 8/29/70 between school semesters. Every time I transferred or got married or did anything, it had to be between school semesters. And transferred to Bolling Air Force Base in 1971. My assignment was to assign the officers that were going on to be generals to one of the 3 command schools in September and graduate them in May. As computers were the new way to go, helped write rosters to automate the process, which allowed a lot of free time. Was asked to help automate the personnel files of the airmen and officers on base. After training others to carry on, was asked to go across the street and help the National Guard automate their systems. When David retired after 22 and a half years in the Marine Corps, I followed him to California and was discharged on 1/31/1973. Made only the rank of sergeant. That's 3 stripes in the old Air Force. Because I would not become somebody's pincushion. I took every class that I could for promotion and only got the rank of sergeant because of time and grade. Because I was not going to give in. Other positions, I worked as a receptionist for the college, got my BA in administration with a minor in economics in 1973 through 1976, also with a certificate in human resources. From 1976 to 1985, I worked as an analyst, underwriter for Aetna Casualty and Surety, an agent in personal lines with one agency and commercial accounts representative agent for another insurance agency. During this time, completed the school and graduated with an accredited advisor insurance called an AAI, and a certified professional insurance women, CPIW. Those can go after my name. And with an AA in computer science. I didn't ask anybody to do a job that I wasn't willing to do myself, and to do that I had to educate. I still believe in that. And just a deviation. One of the things in the military that I was always knocked down, instead of getting a 10 on everything, the last item is working with your fellow airmen. So I was always marked down, 1, female, 2, I asked too much of my fellow airmen. And my question back to them was, how can I ask them to do something if I don't know how to do it myself? In 1985, I made another career change due to moving. We moved from city to city. Worked at Northrop Grumman until I moved again to Utah in 1961. I started out as a secretary and worked myself up to be an analyst, senior configuration management engineer, software for the B-2, the Boomerang. After arriving in Utah, I worked from 1996 to 1999 with American Camper as a binder. Those white tents that you see up here that are now made in Mexico, haha. 1999 to 2007, I worked for the RM Precision as a quality control inspector. 2007 to 2017 for Farmers Insurance as a CSR. I left Farmers to devote my entire time to the American Legion and to the Ritual team. Then began my American Legion legacy. 2007, joined the Auxiliary Unit 9. 2007, became a member of the Ritual team and a chaplain. 2014 to 2022, Lester Creek Commander. 2015 to 17, District 7 Commander. 2017 to 18, Sergeant of Arms, and again in 2021 to 2023. 2018 to 19 was Vice Commander, Department of Utah, which is in charge of the membership, and we were number 1 in the nation out of 55 that year. 2019 to 2021, I was with the commander of the Department of Utah. The reason I got a second, it's a 1-year position, except for COVID existed. The national commander at that time called me personally and said, oh, by the way, Marty, you have to stay. I said, no, our bylaws say 1 year. He goes, go to the last page. In the event of a national emergency, you're it. 2021 to 2023, Area 4 commanders for District 6 and 7. That's Southern Utah. 2019 and 2022, I was a counselor at Boise State. Great bunch of kids. If you have any children, get them to there. They have to be juniors, though. And then again, because I couldn't say no, in 2022, I joined the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation. So if you served anywhere from September 2nd, 1945 to December 2nd, 1991, see me afterwards and I'll get you a little medal. Now I would like to acknowledge a veteran here today who has helped me recognize my PTSD. With her sitting me down and helping me to see what the problem was, ways to get rid of it, and start healing and learning to say no when asked to take on another project, I'm in a better state of mind, health, and comfort with myself and take care of myself. Karen Frost, would you please stand? I'd like to close and say, without her help, I can say I might not be here today with the path that I was on. She is one of the best friends that a person can ask for and is available when I need her. Usually she calls me first because she knows. With a call, says, not even acknowledge, and says, how are you doing, my friend? Thank you, Karen. Everybody enjoy.
One more round of applause for Marty Bigby, everyone. We'd also like to recognize, which we neglected to, Miss Greater Zion, Allie Johnston.
Deep within the heart has always known that there is freedom, somehow breathed into the very soul of life. The prisoner, the powerless, the slave have always known it. There's just something that keeps reaching for the sky. And even life begins because a baby fights for freedom. And songs we love to sing have freedom's theme. Some have walked through fire and flood to find a place called freedom. And some face hell itself for freedom's dream. Let freedom ring wherever minds know what it means to be in chains. Let freedom ring wherever hearts know pain. Let freedom echo through the lonely streets where prisons have no key.
can be free, and we can sing, let freedom ring. God built freedom into every fiber of creation, and He meant for us to all be free and whole. But when my Lord bought freedom through the blood of His atonement, His cross stamped pardon on my very soul. And now I'll sing it out with every breath. I'll let the whole world hear it, this hallelujah anthem of the free. Let freedom ring down through the ages from a hill called Calvary. Let freedom ring wherever hearts know pain. Let freedom echo through the lonely streets where prisons have no key. We can be free and we can sing. Let freedom ring. We can be free and we can sing. Let freedom ring. Let That's a little song I wrote. Just kidding. We now invite Commissioner Almquist to come up and read the proclamation and the names of our distinguished guests.
Ed, hard to follow, but wow, what a wonderful voice and message. So great to be here with you today and to read again the proclamation that we had in our commission meeting a little while back that supports women in the military, past, present, and future. I'll read the proclamation and then our special honored guests. A proclamation supporting and honoring women in the military from Washington County. Whereas although women were not officially enlisted, women have served in the U.S. Army since 1775 by tending to the wounded, washing and mending clothing, and cooking for the enlisted troops, and as David reminded us, good spies. Whereas women were allowed to join the U.S. military during the last 2 years of World War I, and 33,000 patriotic and heroic women answered the call to serve as nurses and other support roles, and more than 400 of them lost their lives while serving. Whereas during World War II, hundreds of women participated in the Women Air Force Service Pilots, acronym WASP, program, and WASP eventually won its militarization and veteran status in 1977, and would go on to be awarded the Congressional Medal in 2010. Whereas more recently, 17% of the 3.3 million veterans that have served since September 11th, 2001 have been women.
Whereas the women in this great country's military serve with courage, valor, and integrity, and have done so for the last 245 years of this country's history. Whereas women hold ranks from the enlisted personnel to 4-star generals or admirals, the highest ranks in our military. And whereas the fight, perseverance, and sacrifice of our military women have left an indelible mark on the history of the United States. Whereas the Washington County recognizes the importance and often demanding burden that rests on the shoulders of military personnel, and we thank you for your service. Whereas Washington County, Utah desires to recognize, support, celebrate, and honor those extraordinary women who have served, currently serve, or support a spouse serving in our armed forces. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the County Commission of Washington County, Utah, that Washington County, Utah proclaims its support for and honors those women who have served or currently served in our armed forces. This was voted on and passed by the Washington County Commission in our regular meeting on April 4th, 2023, signed by myself, Adam Snow, and Victor Iverson. Thank you so much. While there are many women who have served in the military and who are residing in our county, we have those with us today as I read this list. We recognize you, and we don't ask you to stand, but wave your hand or something. We recognize first Amanda Hoops, Phoebe Love, Phoebe Love, Cheryl Larson, Christine A. Butterworth, Constance J. Green, Diana Hutchins Metasevich, Faye Lobb, Jean Lyken, Karen Foss, Linda S. Rollins, Martha Marty Bigby, Martha Minnick McClure, Nancy Crowley, Ruth Cox, Sheila R. Lombardi Rippenhagen Lancel, Tamara Sauer, or Sower. Where would the world be without sowers, you know? Yeah. Tiffany Deliberto. Carol Bays. And Amy Berteau. If we miss you and you're here, free carnival ride on the spinner machine. So wonderful to have you here and to honor those who you also know who are not here. Please extend our deepest appreciation. Thank you.
Veterans, on behalf of all of Washington County and the Washington County Commission, I'd like to extend our thanks for your service. And as I was sitting out in the sun, I was realizing I was feeling guilty because I was looking over and watching our beautiful veterans sit there in the cold. And I thought, you know, in a lot of ways that represents what service to this country as a veteran has meant, is that as America has been able to be in the sun and have its blessings of freedom, you as the daughters of this great country signed up and served. And I just love the comments of Marty Bigby as she spoke. And it made me realize that you're not just veterans to our country, but you're also pioneers and really setting a great example to those who follow behind you. A few years ago, I think I learned a powerful lesson. I'm the youngest of my family, so my father was in World War II. He and two of his uncles were deployed in the Navy to the South Pacific all at the same time. I can only imagine the stress that my grandmother had. But my grandfather he had been in the Marine Corps during World War I, but he hadn't been deployed. And the reason why was that he actually went in to train horses. And but right at that time, they were transitioning from cavalry to tanks. And he was in San Francisco. He'd finished all of his training, and then my great-grandmother became deathly ill and had sent a letter requesting that he be allowed to return home, which he was. And so he didn't deploy. And I never considered him a veteran of World War I until a gentleman was reaching out, and because I shared the same name as my grandfather, had called me and says, we're looking for the grave of your grandfather. He's listed as a veteran of World War I. And I said, oh, you must be mistaken. He never deployed. Then he said, well, you don't understand. A veteran is those who were called up, those who were enlisted, those who were mobilized. That's the definition of a veteran. And it made me really realize that the idea of service to this country doesn't matter where you serve, but it matters that you were willing to serve. And it was a matter that you took your time in your life. And today, as we celebrate and honor you, I know we were really expecting better weather when we moved the date from August to April, and we were expecting, you know, because back in the summer we used to all have to huddle in any piece of shade that we could find. Now we're kind of trying to escape. But just thank you, and this is a beautiful part of our fair every year as we've celebrated the different veterans from different times and wars. But as it was announced that we were going to celebrate those beautiful daughters of our country that had served, I thought how appropriate, how wonderful. In this time of division in our country, your example of service shines more than ever before. And so thank you for all of you who served, who were willing to be called up, willing to be deployed, willing to offer yourself to fight against the darkness of tyranny so the light of peace could shine in our country. Thank you for what you've done for our country, and thank you for the beautiful example you are to myself, to my children, and to this wonderful county of Washington County. We're honored to call you friends and fellow citizens. Thank you.
All right, couple of last announcements here. If your name was called and you're a female veteran, we have a copy of the proclamation for everyone in the back. We'd like you to grab one of those. There's a light lunch for everyone. Don't forget, before you leave, we have the Military Wall of Honor. Through those doors over there where you were standing, there is a photo of every veteran in the county that so far has come forward and given us a photo. If you'd like to be on there, by all means, get your photo to us, and we'll make sure you're on there next year. It grows. I think the commissioners are going to have to build a building next year for all our veteran photos. So make sure you go on Tuesday and make sure they do that. Okay, thank you. If you're a Vietnam veteran from 1955 to 1975 and you have not received your commemorative pin, they are available for you in the back. And that's it. Dismissed.